Good evening. My name is Mary MacSweeney and I'm Deputy Head of Economic Development and Enterprise with the Local Enterprise Office. We're delighted that so many of you could join us this evening for our social enterprise event. So this event is part of Local Enterprise Week, where local enterprise offices across the country have organised 220 events to support people starting up and growing a business. And it's also part of the European Social Economy Regions project that Dublin City Council is part of. So we've got a packed schedule ahead, and we're hoping to keep it as lively and interactive as we can. So we're going to do one or two polls throughout, but we'd also ask you to use the chat function. Let us know who you are, the organisation that you're from, and throughout the evening then, if you've questions for the panel, or at the end of the event, we'll have a shout out. So this is our first poll. So we just want you to answer whether this is your first event you've attended as part of Local Enterprise Week. Thank you. So we've got a packed lineup. Delighted to have the contributors that we have this evening. Just to talk you through, we'll start with Martin Quigley, the Director of Data and Analytics with Hubble, and he'll set the context for us, sharing his experience and insights into the challenging world of what to measure and why it matters. We'll then have a lively panel discussion moderated by Dr. Derek O'Brien, with Caroline Gardner of We Make Good, John Kearns of Partis, and Emma Connors of Recreate Ireland. And Martin Quigley might be on hand to answer any questions if Derek wants to throw a question in his direction. After the panel discussion, Norman Thompson will share the digital brochure showcasing the winners of the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards over the last 7 years. Shane Meehan and Yvonne Kilmurray of Inner City Enterprise will talk us through the awards application process, and John Ryan from the Department of Rural and Community Development will formally launch the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards in their 8th year in 2022, and we'll see a brief video of the 2021 award ceremony. Then Norman is going to host an interactive ecosystem shout out. So have a think now if there's anything you'd like to raise in the shout out, whether it's a support or an event that you'd like people to know about, or whether it's something you need to further your social enterprise ambitions, and somebody here in the room might have the answer to your question or be able to point you in the right direction. So that'll bring our hour to a close, but we'll have the opportunity for some networking if people want to stay on and join a room to chat to some of the others in the room. So if you want to let people know that you're here and your organisation, that would be great. So just to say that this event wouldn't be happening except for the Dublin City Social Enterprise Committee. The committee has been operating now since 2015, and the members of it are Bernie Walsh from Sunflower Recycling, Chris Gordon from Irish Social Enterprise Network and Bisocial, Derek O'Brien from DCU, Dermot O'Corbwy from Carmichael Centre, Emma McAvoy from ISEN, Yvonne Kilmurray from ICE, and Jim Hargis from St Andrews Resource Centre, and Paul Rogers from Northside Partnership, and Maggie Clune from PACE, and Bruce Phillips from Dublin City Council. So just a big thank you to them, and we'll be calling on them throughout the event. So I'd like to hand over now. We might just cease the poll there so that we can see the screen when Martin Quigley is going to set the context for us now. So I'll hand over to you, Martin. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Mary, and thank you for inviting me to come along this evening and speak to all of your good selves. I'll put up the presentation in a moment, but I might just hold on for a minute so that I can see everybody when I start presenting. I'll lose visibility of the audience. So I might just introduce myself first before sharing, and I'm usually quite happy and comfortable in these sort of scenarios, but quite off-put now with my former chair Derek O'Brien and my former boss Caroline Gardner, all in the audience here. So certainly feel the pressure. Very nice to meet everybody. My name is Martin Quigley, as I've said, and I work with Pubble as the Director of Data and Analytics. I suppose possibly maybe part of my perspective and experience that I'll try to share with you today is based on I wasn't sure if I should use the phrase poacher turned gamekeeper, but then I looked at the definition, which was somebody who now protects the interests they previously attacked, and said actually that probably is a good description. So I'll go with that. But we'll certainly attempt to put aside any protection of interests and just give I suppose an honest account from my perspective of some of the challenges and some of the opportunities. And then maybe just to mention as well, so obviously I work with Pubble. I'm sure many of you, most of you would be familiar with Pubble as an organization. So we currently work with 5 different government departments managing grant funding, currently under 38 different programs, and to the tune of 765 million was the last figure I saw for last year. And my role here is as Director of Data and Analytics, so responsible for our program reporting, data and analysis. And I'll speak then a little bit to that. So I might just share my screen with you now, or otherwise I'll just go off on tangents for the next 10 minutes. So you should see my slightly messy screen, and then when I share this presentation, you should see it. Yes? I'm going to assume that's a yes. So I have now lost visibility of all of your faces. So although I can't see the chat. So if there is anything, feel free to put that in, and I'll try address that as I'm going through. So look, the first question to put up there is you know, yeah, why bother? Why are we even talking about this? What is you know, why is it important as part of the dialogue and the debate? You know, there's lots of important things that we could be discussing in respect of social enterprise, and why is it important to speak about social impact? And I suppose there's like the traditional way of speaking to this is that there's 2 elements. There's the, you know, prove and improve. There's demonstrate the work to others, demonstrate your work to funders, demonstrate the impact of your work to donors, to corporate partners, etc. And then the secondary element, which is understanding for ourselves, for yourselves as businesses, what is and what isn't working. In the same way, and I suppose maybe this is an easier concept, in the social enterprise sector, as social entrepreneurs, you know, you will understand the importance of, you know, keeping a tight eye on the economics of a business, and understanding as we approach March, you know, the budgeted versus actuals for Q1, you know, and a good business is all over that stuff. But in the same way as that's important from a financial perspective, the social impact is also key to what a social enterprise does and what a social enterprise delivers. And I think it's certainly a truism to say that the organizations who you know, provide the greatest social impact understand it and can articulate it and can see when it's working and can see when it isn't. And you know, how can you embed continuous quality improvement throughout your organization unless you actually know what success is? And if success isn't just a financial bottom line, well, then what is it? And then maybe the third piece that I'll put in, just coming from the perspective of working in a funding agency, is also then the aggregate ability to tell the story on behalf of either a sector or a program. You know, because of course it does come to you know, to the state and government having to make decisions on the allocation of funding between, you know, between health and between housing and between education and between childcare, and all of these really important areas of the economy and of society. And how can we stack up a compelling, objective and accurate narrative in terms of the social impact when it's not those, you know, some of those measurable domain areas. So, you know, I suppose a particular interest that I would be bringing to it as well is, you know, how can we look at the individual components of impact at the project level and be able to tell a story that, you know, is compelling and is accurate and is objective in respect of say a sector or indeed a program. I'm not going to go through what a logic model is. There's others on the panel who could do this equally well or better than I. And there's plenty of reading out there for anybody who is interested. But just because I will be speaking about some of these terms over the course of the next couple of minutes, I suppose I would, rather than reading through this, I'd always sort of conceive of it as the ripple effect out from the intervention or the work that we do. The person that we work with, or the person that is supported, or the direct people and individuals and communities who benefit from from the activity or the service or the social element of the enterprise. Those as individual beneficiaries in the first instance, what the outcome for them, and indeed what is the longer term impact, but also then their family, their community, the wider society at large. And that description, and it's not just a nice narrative description, that description that is based on a solid logical foundation of cause and effect, and where possible research, that description of the impact of an intervention or of a service, and how we then describe that at the various layers as it resonates outwards. So again, look, I'm not intending to go through those, but maybe on the outcomes piece, just to say one thing which is of course important is, those outcomes can either be quite tangible, and I'll use the term soft and hard, but not because one's more important than the others, but that there can be these quite tangible outcomes in some areas, and maybe it's if we're talking about in supporting individuals into employment, that's quite tangible. But of course, that there can be examples where maybe there's intensive work done with people, but actually, they don't go all the way to employment, or they don't go all the way to entering into formal education. And how do we still report on the positive impacts that have happened along that journey in terms of bringing people, supporting individuals or supporting communities in manners that aren't necessarily as countable or as binary as some of the more hard outcomes. And then one other piece, especially when you look here at this sort of end of the value chain in terms of the social value, very often here what we start to look at is things like, and it's back to that question from the funding perspective of describing programmatic impact and describing, say, sectoral impact, is how do we start to describe the value of organizations' contributions against, say, high-level policy objectives, and that's where, in particular, I think if for anybody thinking about this journey and thinking about how they describe the impact of their work, is how can that be aligned back with either national policies in your domain area, if you're working in health or education or climate change, but then even back to linking with, say, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and of course, there are specific indicators in that space that can go some way toward bridging that gap from the project level to maybe higher level, or sorry, to be kind of national level reporting. And then one piece I'd draw people's attention to as well, and sorry, I've included a couple of links at the end of this slide deck, which Mary and the team will share afterwards. But one of them is a link to the work that's going on at the moment in respect of the national wellbeing indicators. So you may be familiar of some of the work happening there, being led out by the Department of the Taoiseach, who where there's currently now a consultation, I think, coming to an end. Although the CSO have also done an initial set of dashboards around national wellbeing indicators, and certainly I think there'll be an opportunity, especially when we look at some of those softer outcomes, to describe the impact of the work in a way which speaks to some of these quite concrete national well-being indicators. And the whole purpose of the national well-being indicators is to be able to describe the impact of public policy in a way that isn't just back to GDP and GNP, that is actually saying that there are other higher level national policy objectives that aren't just about econometrics. And the whole wellbeing indicators project is about trying to articulate those and articulate a set of wellbeing indicators for the country. So certainly something we're looking at the moment is how to align some of the programmatic reporting back with those national wellbeing indicators. One other example just to mention, and again, others on the conference here will be very familiar with this. which is speaking back to some of the my reference there to kind of some of the softer outcomes, and how do you actually go about measuring those? Because even though they might not be as tangible as somebody moving into employment or somebody going into education, it doesn't mean they're not real, and doesn't mean they're not measurable. It's just, it can be a lot harder to measure. So one of the things that, and look, I mean, the first thing to say about the My Journey distance travel tool is, I mean, its primary purpose is as a tool for supporting the relationship between, you know, a staff member and an individual. But it also, you know, is designed to help an organization understand what is working for you know, for those that they're serving, those they're working with, allows for a benchmarking under a range of domains that, you know, in relation to, you can see here a few questions around, say, confidence, allows an organization to look at their own work and say, well, you know, what is and what isn't working for those that we're here to support. You know, are there things that we can see here have been particularly effective that we can look to mainstream? Are there things here where maybe we need to improve or change tack? And of course, just, you know, embedding that knowledge and that learning, that data within organizational continuous quality improvement, which again should be the primary drive for this, and then a secondary a secondary component or outcome is the ability to describe the impact to, you know, to funders or corporate sponsors or corporate partners. How am I doing for time? Okay, so I've got a couple of minutes left. Two more things that I'll speak to, and I've kind of touched off this a little bit, but I suppose it's just to flag, I suppose, kind of what we would see as an important distinction when it comes to looking at you know, social impact and social value is, and I suppose I wouldn't necessarily have seen hugely before coming and working with Pubble. You know, a lot of my previous work would have been supporting organizations at the project level to understand and demonstrate their outputs and their outcomes and their impacts. And you know, and that can be quite specific and particular to an organization, to an enterprise, to a not-for-profit. You know, that can be quite a specific set of tasks and activities they deliver, and then a logical framework for understanding what's the impact of that. I suppose a key challenge, and I mean, a potential point of conflict then becomes, how do you aggregate, you know, 10 or 50 or, you know, 400 organizations within the context of say, a program? How do you aggregate all of those project level impacts in a way that makes sense from a program perspective and allows us to make, you know, where there is evidence of strong work, of really good work and really good impact, allows us to make a case in terms of the collective impact of that program when it comes to, say, high level policy goals? How do you aggregate what can be quite different and disparate work on the ground to, you know, an understanding of is a program actually adding social value, and how do we describe that, and how do we describe that in such a compelling case that it stacks up when it's put against the impact of vote expenditure under health and housing and employment. You know, and I suppose that can be that becomes one of the key challenges. And of course, you know, there's a need to do our best to aggregate up the information from the project level to the program. But of course, when that work is quite disparate at the project level, it can be particularly challenging. And I know certainly it would have been one of the things before I came into Pubble that, you know, I would have felt strongly, you know, if only the funder asked the right questions, organizations would be better able to tell their story. But very often those right questions can be so project level specific. And part of the balance, and people may not believe me, but I promise, a key part of our thinking when we design programs is how do we minimize the administrative burden versus what absolutely needs to be captured. You know, and I think that can be one of the points of contention is, you know, how do we look for enough information from funded organizations to be able to tell that story, but not overload and not ask for, you know, every piece of information in respect of every piece of work that you've done and every outcome and every impact that has, especially if we know that aggregating those is not going to do any more than tell 500 different case studies, you know. So of course that just becomes an important consideration there that I draw people's attention to. So I have 2 minutes left, and actually what I was going to do now, I went through a number of our appraisals quite quickly, because an important element here back to the project level is what is a funder looking for when we apply for funding. in terms of the logic of the outcomes that we present. So I went back over a few, and I've created a composite that is totally fictitious, but does represent some of the, I suppose, some of the mistakes that I suppose we would see, and where we would be suggesting actually that they should have looked. So with the last 2 minutes, I'm just going to cover that. So here's an example of somebody of an organization that was a couple of years ago, and actually it's about 4 different organizations, so it's well obfuscated. But this fictitious organization, based on real life examples, for every €1 spent, claimed that they would save the state 20 quid. Caroline may well want to come in on social return on investment, but I think certainly anybody of that ilk would have the alarm bells ringing a little bit when they'd see such a such a high figure being quoted. And when we looked at it, what this particular enterprise was doing was, that they were working, say, with 50 ex-prisoners over the course of the year. These are all nicely rounded numbers, of course. 50 ex-prisoners over the course of the year, providing very intensive employment supports at a cost of €100,000. They had a unit cost of £2,000. They had really good, and they did have very good evidence demonstrating that actually their intervention would reduce recidivism by half. But they then went on to say, because it's reducing recidivism in half, it has a 50% effectiveness rate, which means we have a positive outcome rate cost of 4,000. So your unit cost of 2,000 on 50% effectiveness, meaning a positive outcome rate of 4,000. Again, I think most of you would logically see the issue on that one. And then, given there's a national prison cost of €80,000 a year, for every 4,000 you invest saves 80,000, and backwards divided, that gives you your 1 to 20. So again, it's quite a basic, and indeed it's a very financial. It's not looking at any of the less tangible or proxy costs. It is sticking with tangible actual costs. But again, I think yeah, there'd be a couple of questions there. So I'm risking going over, so I'll take just 2 more minutes. What we would have looked at in this is actually, research would tell us that of those that you've worked with, 40% would have gone back to prison. So actually 30 in the first instance would not have gone back to prison, 30 of those individuals, and you term that dead weight. So based on that, we know, well, actually of the 20 who probably would gone back to prison statistically likely would have gone back to prison, 10 wouldn't, with your 50% of reduction in recidivism. So actually it's a cost, positive outcome cost of 10,000, not the 4. But even then, there's 2 other important elements here to consider. The first is, well, how much of this is actually attributable to the intervention, the organization, that you have provided directly. What about the fact that probation service were also working with these? What about the fact that 2 of them were working with IASIO, many of them working with the drug treatment service, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then the important question that I would add in here was, what about the fact that many of the costs you're claiming will be reduced are fixed costs unless they were to reach a very high critical mass? So, are you actually saying that the Irish Prison Service would have been able to return €800,000 to the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform because 10 people didn't go to prison? Probably not. So and there's a need for us to be honest about that in our onward reporting. And then again, of just to put here very quickly some of the things we think could have been considered. And again, it's about that ripple effect. What about the effect for the individual in terms of their personal well-being, in terms of say, for example, life satisfaction, personal development, employment. Sorry, the ones here in bold are actually taken directly from the national well-being indicators here. So again, trying to tie back some of that. What are the impact on families? Because the point here being that this organization was very good at demonstrating their impact. That they were reducing recidivism by half. That was fantastic. But the onward logic of the social value they were claiming would be where we would have had questions. But absolutely, I think that there's plenty of research out there to talk about the impact that would have on families, the socio-emotional impact, educational impact on children of having a parent not in prison, and of course the counterfactual cost of of victims of crime not being victimized, and the subjective experiential cost of not being a victim of crime in that instance. These are all areas that would be very ripe for describing the impact of that kind of outcome. I am finished. I can see Mary's face is telling me that I'm about 2.5 minutes over. So there's a couple of links here which relate to a few of the points that I've spoken about. So plenty of onward reading if anybody's interested. And likewise, I'm happy to also provide my email if anybody wants to get in touch. I'm happy to speak about this stuff for hours and hours.
Thank you so much, Martin. That was a great context setting piece for the rest of our discussion. And if you're happy for us to share your slides, we might share them with the participants afterwards. Yep, there was a question there, because that'd be great. Thank you. So now that we've had the context set for us, we have our next stage, which is the panel discussion. So I'll just invite Derek to talk to our panelists and get them to introduce themselves. Over to you, Derek. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mary. So guys, I'll try and keep it as succinct as possible. So I'm just going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves really quickly, and then we'll just get stuck into a couple of questions, okay? So over to Caroline, is that okay?
Yeah, great, thanks. Lovely to see you all. I represent two organisations, both social enterprises. So Quality Matters is a charity consultancy company. So we teach social return on investment, which is a methodological way of doing what a lot of Martin was talking about there. And we're also alongside the wheel and White Barn Consulting, which is Sandra Valtus, many of you will know her, are running Social Value Island. So that's a network where people come together and have these very specific discussions. So that's one side of the house, the consultancy, evaluation, and SROI. The other side of the house is that we actually do the real work. So like you guys, we're running a social enterprise, We Make Good, which is a CSP program providing employment for people from marginalised backgrounds, and we also have a shop in Fade Street. So we teach it, but we also get it done to us by ourselves. So we no longer say in any training program ever, oh, that's easy, because we're doing it, so we know it's not. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Caroline. So John, are you okay to come in?
Yeah, sure, Derek. Yeah, hi, and congratulations, Dublin City, on including social enterprise in your Enterprise Week. It's not every local authority area that's doing that. Anyway, my name is John Carson. Delighted to see so many people here, many faces I haven't seen for years, but great to be here. I'm the CEO of Partus, and we're a social enterprise, long-standing social enterprise, actually since 1984, based in Tala. We run 4 enterprise centres in Tala. We're a training organisation, and so local development and minority entrepreneurship as an exit route from disadvantage. Although we're trying to frame it more into, positive impact and creating a more thriving, inclusive community. I also am a founder member of the Social Enterprise Network, SERI, Social Enterprise Republic of Ireland. And I also sit on the expert advisory group to the Commission on Social Enterprise in Brussels. So, also I actually just reminded when I was invited to speak here that I was a founder director of the Institute of Social Auditing over 20 years ago. Remember that? So, for anything I say later on, just remember I am very pro impact reporting, at least in theory, maybe a little bit less in practice.
That's great. Thanks, John. Emma, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emma, the CEO of Recreate. We're based out in Ballymount. So I've been with the company just over a year. So a mad time to be joining Recreate. So we are a creative reuse company. So essentially we creatively reuse materials that would otherwise end up in landfill. So we're kind of an unusual social enterprise. Next year will be our 10th year. So we kind of sit at a crossroads between being a circular company, being a creative company, being an educational company, and kind of events and entertainment. So this is actually very relevant now tonight to be looking at that, because it's this whole idea of where does our social impact lie and what are we really in the business of. At the moment, we would have 300 plus suppliers who we get our materials from. and they come into our main warehouse, and then we have about 1,000 members. So that could be anything from early year creches to schools to artists to families who become members of Recreate to get access to these materials. And alongside that, kind of underneath, we also see ourselves as a social inclusion company. So we create specifically create employment opportunities for those who might be removed from the labour market, or have disabilities or whatever. So it's quite a complex, for a small enough social enterprise, it's quite a complex company. So really trying to define what we're really absolutely about. And that has been the central focus in the past year for myself, kind of coming on board, and with a relatively new board and a relatively new staff team. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Okay, super. Thanks, Emma. So I'm going to kick off with a couple of linked questions. So is it more difficult for social enterprises to measure impact than other enterprises? What are the key challenges facing social enterprises as they try to measure impact? And is there any good practice? So remember, we're in time, and Mary will kill us if we stay over. She knows where we all live. So go for it. Who's up first?
Yeah, I'll jump in and offer my tuppence worth. They're very loaded questions, really loaded questions. I mean, it's like, it's like a theological thing, is there a God? There's no quick yes or no answer. I have to remind you that I am pro-impact. So anything I say, I feel a certain kindness and sympathy, maybe because I'm leading a social enterprise, but I think we have to be sympathetic to the position social enterprises find themselves in. We've come through a horrendous 12 or 14-year period post the economic collapse, post successive funding cuts, post-COVID. We have had various regulatory implications put on us. Many of us are still tackling with compliance with governance and CRA. All of that within a very resource lean environment. It's really, really difficult, and much as we might want to, and I can associate with Saint Augustine, who said, "Make me pure, but just not yet." We want to, yes, we know that we have to. It's resource intensive, and we're probably recovering somewhat to be in a position. I think we all know it. And there's somewhere in the back of all social enterprise minds that sense of guilt that we should be doing more in this area. But we should also then remind ourselves, be kind to ourselves. We are already past the first stage of social impact, in that we are a non-profit. So our first impact is that we don't do it to benefit ourselves or to benefit shareholders. We do it to benefit our community. Here's the very first box ticked. We're well intentioned. We of course can do things better. We could be more effective and more efficient. But it is a route. I just would also draw one thing. I think how social impact is perceived among the social enterprise community. We're not generic. There are huge social enterprises that come from, say, maybe like a Silicon Valley type beginning, or there are community development type social enterprises. There are social entrepreneurship led social enterprises. Each of those will have a different capacity and a different attitude. Some are coming from a left-brained approach, others are coming from a right-brained approach, and maybe we need to flesh out the image of social impact. It isn't necessarily an accounting discipline. It may well be a marketing tool. And I remember meeting somebody at one stage at a conference who advised philanthropists, and he said, "You've no idea the sleepless nights philanthropists have trying to be sure that the investments they make aren't causing any harm." And it's a very useful way to remember the importance of what we do and why we should be providing this as a marketing tool, as a reassurance that we don't waste or we're not inefficient.
Okay, thanks, John. So Emma or Caroline, who wants to come in?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that it's necessarily more difficult for social enterprise. I just think that we don't do it. I don't think that it's a habit that we have naturally developed. I know one thing that has been quite interesting to look at as a new observer into Recreate is that idea of those that are in the social camp in Recreate and those that are in the enterprise camp. There's a very kind of natural split in the staff team over the past year. So say that the enterprise camp now is the marketing business person, is very much about just getting the profit, getting the members in, getting the money in, and maybe missing the social impact. And then on the other half of the house of Recreate are those that sit very much in the social bit. We're creative, we're about the community. Profit is a yuck word. And so neither, in fact, when I came into Recreate, neither camp within the company was looking at that sweet spot of social impact, where we look at that as actually an entrepreneurial opportunity. And I think, so that's one of the things that if that's not done, if that understanding isn't there at staff level around what are we actually trying to do here, what are we in the business of, and that if we're not in that shared understanding, then how are we possibly driving any kind of social impact? And I think traditionally then for a lot of social enterprise, I'm just thinking is that a lot of the reporting that we would have had to do are for funders, or for, we are also a CSP funded program. So the metrics we use to report to Pubble, no, that there's a handful of 10 of them, but that's not the rich picture of other data that we could be capturing. So I think there's that shift as well around seeing ourselves as being entrepreneurial, and that we should be trying to measure our own social impact, so that sense of self-esteem for team, driving new business opportunities, not just as a reporting function. And that I can definitely see has been missing in Recreate. We are sitting on gold data. We have Salesforce, we have staff who are tracking the workshops they're doing. We're seeing visible outputs, and we don't story tell it all. We don't, well, but now we're starting to, but it's like this untapped resource of impact. We don't even have to figure out what it is. We have 100 things we could be measuring and are now starting to measure. So I think it's a skill that we need to develop, and I think we just haven't been in the mind space to do it before. So.
Okay.
Great. Well, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying there, Emma. It's one of our greatest assets. And while it's painful to do, as we've all acknowledged, telling our story brings people on board, because in the end, everybody wants what we want, which is equality, justice, environmental goals. We're all focused on the same way. So if we can let people know how we achieve that, we're in a much better position. So part of my thinking for today was, okay, I know what it looks like when it's done really well, because we teach this, like one methodology, not the only methodology, but we teach social return on investment, which is a really detailed, quite difficult way of doing it. And it's great, but it's not, it does feel really hard for lots of people when they're starting off. And so I also had a chat with Owen and Rethink, who couldn't be here today, but asked that I kind of make a few comments on behalf of Rethink, who are, as many of you will know, and have worked with a philanthropic organization who supports a lot of social enterprise. Now, we worked with them and Social Value International to help design their outcome frameworks. And there is learning there for us all, which is, it's great. You can't do it all at once. And like you said, Emma, there's all these parts of what you do, and it's impossible to do amazing impact measurement on everything you do straight off the bat. But what we would say is really good learning is to have an overall framework, and then to do it bit by bit by bit. So you're telling a big story. What we would start off with is, and what is recommended from the Social Value International perspective, is that you develop what's called a theory of change. Martin showed a logic model before. A theory of change is very, very similar to that. It's basically the story of what you do and what happens as a result. And it would be like that chart that Martin had is very, very similar to a theory of change. And social value says you have to engage your stakeholders in doing that. We can't work from the objectives or the policy. We might get to that and we'll map it against that. But good practice would say, if we're looking at the social value kind of philosophy, there's 7 principles. And the first one, the only one I'm going to talk about today, is involve stakeholders. So we've seen again and again and again the value of that. Is rather than saying, here's our objectives, did we achieve them? It's to go out and get people together, our service users, and say, what happened for you? And that we build our outcome framework based on what they tell us. Because what we often find is that what people will tell us is they will bring new outcomes to the table that we didn't even know we were creating. And the other thing is that we get them to do is say, what do you want the most? What do you value the most as a stakeholder? And again, it might not be what we're paid to do or what we thought was important or the top of our first objective. And that's really important, because if we want to create value for the people we serve, we need to know what changes for them and what they value the most. So, and if anyone wants to learn more about that, we have developed, it's free, and we've done it with the wheel. Anyone can come to it. Is the Social Value Network, and we meet 3, 4, 5 times a year, and it's a place where people can come and learn a little bit more about some of those kind of methodological ideas.
Great, thanks, Caroline. I'm led to believe we have about 5 minutes left before we get the hike. So I've one question, maybe for both of you, or for the three of you, like year 3 sort of practitioners, you're at the coalface. If you were to give, let's say, a minute's advice to some of our startups here, or some of our more serial social entrepreneurs, about measuring and communicating their impact, what would it be? Now, don't rush.
I'll go first if you like.
Okay, go on.
Mine would be develop a framework, engage your stakeholders, your primary stakeholder group. You can do the others later. So if you're just starting off, your primary stakeholder group, get them to tell you what changes. From that, build some simple data collection tools, and then work out in your first thing, before you get to anything else, how to make that information meaningful to them. Because if you've done that, they're the main people we care about, is the people we're serving. Let's make it meaningful to them. If you can do that, your funders, your stakeholders, the philanthropists, it's going to work for them as well. So that's the biggest challenge, I think. And we often forget that actually the people who care most about the change we're making are the people that we're serving. So if we focus on that goal, everything else is going to fall into place.
No, that's a model of succinct answer. No pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I hesitated because I think kind of Emma and Caroline had pretty much outlined kind of, I think, the advice, which was to kind of to build it in and to do it within a framework and things like this. So if I might come at it from a slightly different angle, just is to be, I think Caroline said, like, do it in stages. Don't look at the big thing. Be kind to yourself still. Do not guilt shame yourself about this. Get the attitude right. It is not a major academic undertaking, which I think a lot of people think it is. It doesn't need to be. SROI is one. Or social auditing is another. There's 15, 20 different methodologies. And whatever you do something. Because you'd be surprised taking that first step might well lead you to order it in a more logical way, or more. So do something, get started, but don't start with a negative attitude. And I keep going back to the compliance with CRA at the moment, which again, is tough. I mean, that's a kind of to be fully compliant is a year's amount of work for impact reporting does not need to be in that same stable.
Yeah, I might come from a different one as well. Because I suppose it's the experience in Recreate for the last year, is that I think it really needs to start in-house with staff. I think that just that quick scoop of what data is already there that you can gather. How can we make this stuff be more visible? Become really skilled readers. What's happening out there in policy that we're already doing and not taking credit for? What can we leverage? Really knowing who your competitors are, because maybe we've got we're doing something really unique that nobody else is. So rather than recreate thinking, for example, that the circular economy sector is saturated, but maybe if we really looked, we're in fact doing something quite unique that we can leverage. I think even around other skills around honesty as a company or as a staff team, are we really honest about what we say we're doing, or is it just light? Do we have the skill of curiosity? Are we really continually, and I mean that as a not a light word, but a skill, are we rigorous in our reading? Are we asking why about everything? So I think there's a whole bit of really doing that, building the team around being antennae out, being very entrepreneurial, being well read, looking at your competitors, seeing where your own lane can be, and what are you already doing, and to make that very visible, not only just for the stakeholders, absolutely, but I think particularly with Recreate, with a very mixed staff team, is for everybody to see that internally first, because there's already tons of wins in that. So that would be that's what we're doing. So that's been our stage 1 strategy. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Well, look, thanks, Caroline. Thanks, John. Thanks, Emma. I think we're coming back to Mary with 20 seconds in the bag, Mary. So I expect a decent cup of coffee the next time in the civic offices.
That's the best impact measurement, Derek. You've earned that coffee. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic panel discussion, and I think everyone here got a lot out of it. So we're now going to align what we've done through the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards with the national policy, which is all about raising awareness of social enterprises. That's one of its key objectives. And Norman is going to quickly talk us through a digital brochure that he developed with information of the award winners from the previous 7 years of the awards. And at the 2021 award ceremony, we had feedback from those award winners who said they would like to be promoted collectively. So over to you, Norman.
Thanks very much. Hopefully that's coming through okay. Can you see the brochure there?
Yeah.
Okay, super. Yeah. So thanks everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're delighted to have you with us. So as Mary said, we have produced this brochure, which as far as we know, it's the first of its kind produced by a local authority. The whole idea of this brochure is to showcase, to highlight all of the Dublin City Social Enterprise awardees that we've had so far from 2015 to 2021, sorry. So I'm absolutely delighted to share this with you. Just to give you a couple of insights into what it contains. Basically, it features a bit of background on the awards, the context of the awards, also a little bit of context on social enterprises. But obviously, the key information here is on all 35 awardees. So we've categorized them into broad and relevant categories. So the idea is, if someone is looking to find out about a social enterprise that operates in the craft area or the environment or the sustainability area or health or whatever else, they can very easily click on this hyperlink, or indeed if they know the name of the social enterprise, they can click on the name, and then that will bring them right down to our different sections that feature all 35 awardees. So for example, Frontline Bikes, they're the first one featured here, and as you can see, the brochure provides a nice little bit of context in terms of who Frontline Bikes are, what their social causes are, and also the key products or services that they provide. And then you've got all the contact details that you need. You've even got a link to a video on Frontline Bikes that you can find out more. So I'm going to finish up there, but just to say, we will share this brochure with you. We're going to follow up with everyone who registered to attend this event. We're going to share, we'll share a link to it, and we'll also share the actual PDF. And we would just encourage you, please.
Excuse me, iTunes needs your
sorry, I don't know what that was. Please do share this brochure with your organizations, and think about how you or your organization might be able to support, collaborate with, or indeed purchase from these social enterprises. So thanks very much, Mary.
Thanks, Norman. And as the brochure captures, the inner city enterprises came to Dublin City Council and created these awards to begin with. So we're now going to hear from Evan Kilmurray and Shane Meehan that are going to just talk us through the awards and what's involved. You're going to demystify the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards. Over to you, Evan and Shane.
Evan, you're on mute.
Thanks very much. Now I think I'm back again. I always feel it's a bit like the Punch and Judy show here when it's me and Shane, and I'm usually Judy, But listen, just to say, like, it's been an absolute joy being kind of running the Social Enterprise Awards, and it's hard to believe this is actually the 8th iteration, and it's just those 8 years have gone by so quickly, and with 39 awardees as well. And like, what's incredible is that everybody virtually is really doing well and up and running despite COVID and all the rest. There's certainly just an awful lot of challenges during that lockdown period, especially for obviously a lot of our hospitality and tourism and that. Everybody will be glad to hear that, and Shane is going to be talking about this now, I know. The application process, really thanks to Shane and Norman, has been greatly simplified. So it'll just make it a lot easier, I think, for people to apply. then the other thing is just finally to say is, and ICE have been working on this for quite some time. We've now secured a building, and we're going to open it up as the ICE social enterprise hub. So it'll be run as a social enterprise as well. So it's going to be a first example of an enterprise hub actually being run as a social enterprise. So 40% of those coming in will be below market rate, and the remaining 60 then will pay the normal rate. So it's all very exciting. But it's just, we decided, we run the social enterprise awards, so let's get that social enterprise off the ground as well. And what better way to do it than through an enterprise hub. So there'll be more on that later on. Hopefully by this time next year, we'll be open and up and running. So yeah, Shane, do you want to kick off on the application process, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk through the application process and the application very quickly. I will be as short and succinct as Derek and everyone else on the panel. So just bear with me and I'll share my screen. Yeah, so this year we have an increased budget of 60,000 in the fund, and we can do a maximum grant of up to 15,000 depending on what you require on the awards. We have the call open, it'll be up on our website from tomorrow, and the closing date for applications will be the 25th of April, so the end of the evening on 25th of April. This is a link to apply for the awards, so basically you just go into our website and you can download the application form and then email it to myself in ICE. And so, like, what are we looking for in the application? As Ivan said, we previously had a requirement for the application form plus a business plan plus a accompanying documentation, and just from feedback over the last number of years, I think it's been a bit cumbersome for some social enterprises, especially the newer startup social enterprises, to complete that information. So myself and Norman worked on revising the form back down, so we have now a very succinct 10-page form with 3 of those pages, I think, just giving some information as well. So we've made it as easy as possible for social enterprises to apply for the fund. You will have to obviously confirm your tax clearance and that you're the appropriate organization like a CLG or co-op to apply for the awards. And we obviously need some financial information for your organization as well. So if you're an existing social enterprise, we look for financial accounts, but if you're new, we look for some projections as well. There are some services out there that you can get some support with the application as well. So if you want to come to us, if you're considering applying, we can maybe point you in the right direction. So as I said, the applications come into me and to my email by the 25th of April. Just on the application form, short, succinct answers, keep to the word count. We've reduced all the word counts as well to make it easy. Answer each question, but try not to repeat yourself. Clearly state your social return, but also show what the opportunities there are for your income and sustainability plan as well. And clear details about what the funds are being used for. Don't forget to let us know what exactly the funds are going to be used for. And just ensure that the work is carried out in the Dublin City area as well, considering it's the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards. There's some lovely pictures of our previous award winners, some of who are on the call today. And just ensure that your application includes, again, clear, concise answers: who, what, where, when, why. If you have some success already, please let us know about it. Good financial projections, and maybe some competitors or partners, or if you're working in collaboration with other social enterprises, with government departments, with corporates, whatever, let us know about that as well. And if you want to include some visual aids, photographs, graphics, that's more than welcome as well. Just a very quick timeline. We'll be reviewing the applications May, June. We'll do a short list in July, and then there'll probably be an award ceremony either August or September later on in the year. And just some of the additional supports then involved with once you secure an award, we obviously have a lot of training and opportunities for networking as well. So we work with a couple of different partners. DCC and ourselves obviously offer training. We work with William Fry Solicitors on some training as well for social enterprises. We're the Dublin City Community Cooperative, which ICE is a member of, along with 6 other partnerships in Dublin, are offering training and mentoring at the moment under the CCOP programme. So it's all about access to other programmes to help you build your capabilities within your social enterprise as well, and ensure your sustainability. And obviously then networking and events, and you become a part of our community as well. So that's all I wanted to say. Good luck for anybody who wants to apply, and just to say that the application will be up on our website tomorrow.
Thanks very much, Shane. And we might, as a shout out from ourselves, we'd send you out the details after the event, and we'd ask you all to share the news of it with your own networks. We'd like to get as many applications as possible. So the awards will be open for applications from tomorrow, and we'll have a deadline then before May so that we can evaluate them. So we're very appreciative of the funding that we've received from the Department of Rural and Community Development, and John Ryan is with us this afternoon from the department. So I might just call on John if he wants to say a few words as just to formally launch the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards. Over to you, John.
Okay. Thank you, Mary, and thanks to Dublin City Council for the invitation. My name is John Ryan, and I'm part of the Social Enterprise Unit at the Department of Rural and Community Development. It's a tremendous pleasure for me to be here, part of this evening's event, announcing the launch of the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards 2022. These awards are funded by the Department of Rural and Community Development and Dublin City Council, and I want to pay tribute to Dublin City Council and Inner City Enterprise, who have collaborated in making the Dublin City Enterprise Awards the success it is today. These awards continue to grow since their beginnings back in 2015. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since then. If you will remember back, 2015 was the first year of Dublin's 6 in a row in the Senior Football Championship. Unfortunately, Dublin were unable to continue that run, but these awards have continued throughout and are going from strength to strength. They act as a great example to every other county. Congratulations are due to Mary, Norman, and all involved in the production of the Social Enterprise Awards brochure. It's obvious that a huge amount of work went into it, and it was worth it. It really is an amazing resource. Looking through it, all of the previous award winners are brilliant examples of social enterprise. They were involved in addressing the important issues that face our communities: unemployment, homelessness, diversity, accessibility, addiction, health, sustainability, biodiversity, the list goes on. Social enterprises, as we know, are businesses that work primarily to improve the lives of people. Rather than maximizing profits for shareholders, their core objective is to achieve a social, societal, or environmental impact. The importance of social enterprise and their value to society was really demonstrated during the COVID-19 pandemic. This program and competition aims to increase awareness of the important contribution that social enterprises make to building communities, creating employment, and developing the skills of the participants who get involved. The Department of Rural and Community Development is proud to be associated with these awards. The awards also align very well with Ireland's first national social enterprise policy, which was launched by the department in 2019. The three core objectives of the policy are: 1, building awareness of social enterprise; 2, growing and strengthening social enterprise; and 3, achieving better policy alignment. This awards initiative contributes to 2 of the main policy objectives: raising awareness and growing and strengthening social enterprise. Partnership also is central to the policy, and this is especially important in raising awareness. Each and every social enterprise represented here this evening are ambassadors for the sector, and I encourage you all to spread the word and tell your inspiring stories. These awards also dovetail with other schemes the department has commenced for social enterprises in recent years, such as the Dormant Accounts Funded Awareness Raising Initiatives for Social Enterprise, or ARISE scheme, various small capital grant schemes, the COVID-19 Regeneration Scheme for Social Enterprise, and the Startup Fund for Social Enterprise. Further funding opportunities will be announced by DRCD this year. Keep an eye out, particularly for dormant accounts funded schemes aimed specifically at social enterprise. This year will see one of the most important priorities under the policy being addressed: the running of a baseline data gathering exercise for social enterprise. This will determine, among other things, the number of social enterprises in Ireland, their regional spread, their primary sectors of activity, the nature and levels of staffing, and their approximate trading income levels. As this is the final year of the National Social Enterprise Policy, we have also engaged with the OECD to conduct a review of the implementation of the policy. This review, along with the baseline data on social enterprise, will feed directly into the development of the next social enterprise policy. But back to this evening's launch. I encourage any eligible social enterprise to submit an application for the Dublin City Social Enterprise Awards 2022. If you do, I wish you the best of luck. Perhaps your organisation can join the 35 social enterprises that these awards have supported over the last 7 years. When social enterprises succeed, we all benefit. Whether you apply or not, whether you are selected or not, I encourage you to proudly call yourselves social enterprises and encourage others to follow the course you have set. We have a shared responsibility to raise awareness about social enterprise. We need to change the paradigm around how we can achieve social impact. These awards do a great job of raising awareness and shaping the conversation. I would like to commend Dublin City Council and the LEOs for the support provided in the development of social enterprise, especially for all the events that are being run during Local Enterprise Week. It's an excellent example for others to follow. I'm really pleased to have been part of this evening's event, which highlights the excellent work of so many people who are committed to supporting social change across Dublin. Thank you all for your kind attention and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you so much, John. That was a really powerful address, and it's great to be reminded about all of the good work that's happening under the national policy that supports all the social enterprises here today. We're going to now move to the shout out part of our session. We're getting close to our end of an hour. So if any of you have anything that you'd like to shout out about, Norman is just going to lead the shout out. And I think, Norman, there was a question there earlier from someone who's starting out in the social enterprise and just asking for some suggestions on where they might start. I don't know if you wanted to ask that person to maybe share their question and please feel free to let Norman know if you want to join the shout out.
Exactly. So thanks so much, Mary. So this section now is just for anyone on the call who would like to highlight their organisation, their social enterprise, maybe a support, a resource, initiative that they feel the people on this call need to find out about. What we've learned in previous years is you never know, by just asking a question, someone else in the room will have an answer or have some kind of a resource that might help you. So we've always been really inspired by just having this little part of this event, because it's always really nice to see how different people can collaborate and get to know each other by just standing up and shouting out. So if anyone has any kind of initiative they would like to share, maybe you're organising a social innovation hackathon in DCU and you might like to highlight that. I don't know if Orla is still with us, but you might like to highlight that, or if anyone else is here, feel free to shout out.
Norman, hi, thank you for introducing me there. So I was going to just pop it in the chat, but yes, so fantastic event. Thanks for inviting me. And as Norman said, so in DCU Business School, we are running a social innovation hackathon, and we run it every year. We did it online last year, so it's great to be back in person, and we will have over 700 first-year business school students, and we will have guest speakers, mentors, and MCs. So we're basically looking for people who might have 1 or 2 hours from the 21st of March to the 23rd of March to come and give some advice to our students, help them kind of develop solutions. It's social innovation hackathon, so they'll be coming up with social innovation solutions for chosen sustainability topics. So it's 21st to the 23rd of March, DCU Business School, and yeah, we'd be delighted to have any of you there. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Orla. So if you're interested in collaborating or supporting, please get in touch with Orla. Myself, Mary, and a number of our team have been involved and have supported the hackathon, and we really enjoyed it, and we certainly will recommend it. So please do get involved. So yeah, if anyone else would like to shout out about a support, a network, an initiative that's coming up, an event, now's your time, just before we finish up.
See, Kelly Birmingham from the Ivy Trust had put a note into the chat. Kelly, did you want to say a word there?
No, just hello to everybody, and it's great to see such innovation in the city, and I know so many on the call here this evening, so it's really great to have that breadth of knowledge and talent in the room, the virtual room. So yeah, we will be looking at something for the Ivy Trust specifically in the Dublin 8 area. So we're just exploring opportunities at the moment and teasing out a couple of ideas internally, and we'll touch base. And yeah, thanks very much, everybody.
Brilliant. And Kelly, there is a group working in the Dublin 8 area looking at social enterprise development, and Bruce Phillips from the area office is working, but there's a number of the area partnerships and others on a Grow Dublin 8 social enterprise committee. So we have a meeting tomorrow, so we'll definitely follow up with you around that. That'd be brilliant. Yeah.
Lovely. I'm hatching out in the Ivy Trust tomorrow because I work for the cathedral as well. So I'll be wearing the Ivy Trust hat tomorrow. So that'll be perfect. I'll give Bruce a shout. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Okay, so any other resources, events, initiatives coming up that you'd like to shout out about, or indeed if you had a question for people here that might be able to advise you, you can feel free to just ask in the chat or ask like live in the event now just before we finish up.
Norman, could I just very quickly mention a resource, a free resource? My name is Derek O'Reilly. I'm training manager in Carmichael. And John mentioned earlier about the very onerous task of compliance with the Charities Regulators Governance Code. And we have a lot of free resources on our website. These are resources we put a bit of time and effort into developing, and we've posted them on the resources section of our website. So they're kind of step-by-step guidelines for organizations that are struggling maybe a bit with the compliance with the governance code. So if you check www.carmichaelireland.ie, and the resources section has loads of free stuff there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing. That'll be a relief, I'm sure, to lots of people who are wondering about governance and so on. So thanks, Derek. That's much appreciated. So I think I might leave it there, Mary, because we are a little bit over anyway. But what I'll say is we will share, Derek, if you could email me on or pop it in the chat, and then I will share the link to that resource in a follow-up email with all the people that registered.
I'll do that now.
Great. Thanks very much, Norman. And I know we had a question in the chat earlier from someone who's going to start up a social enterprise, wondering where they might begin. We have a Start Your Own Business Bootcamp on this Saturday as our final event of Local Enterprise Week. So while it isn't specifically aimed at social enterprises, it's a good place to start with the fundamentals of how to establish a business. So that might be a starting point. But I think Rethink Ireland are also doing a dedicated Start Your Own Business social enterprise program. So they might be worth checking out. So
Mary,
I think,
Mary, just to say on that as well, like, if anybody has any questions about the awards, they can come to us on ICE over the coming weeks. Obviously, it's a competitive process, so we can't help you with your application, but we can definitely steer you. And for that person who was asking about setting up the social enterprise, if they want to give us a shout, we can meet up with them as well.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Shane. So I think that just brings me to thank everybody who's been involved this evening. For anyone who has the time to stay with us a bit longer, we're going to have a short networking session where you'll be joining people in a smaller room on Zoom and just having a chat and introducing yourselves to each other. But I'd just like to thank everyone who's taken the time to be with us this evening, to thank Shane and Ivan, to thank Martin Quigley, Derek O'Brien, our three fabulous panelists, Caroline, Emma and John, and just to thank all of you for being here with us, and John Ryan from the department. And hopefully next year we will be in Shane and Ivan's newly purposed social enterprise space, which will be wonderful. So thank you all so much, and I hope some of you can stay with us for a bit of networking. Thanks again.